Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Hi, hello-y, my name is Loey. In November of 2019, I posted the first video of a small series that I did here on my channel in which I looked into the world of McKamey Manor, which at one point was deemed America's most extreme haunted house. Since my series of videos looking into not only the McKamey Manor haunted house attraction and also Russ McKamey himself, a lot of things have transpired, and this update video has been in the works kind of for the past year, but it always just ended up taking the back burner to something else for me. Until July 19th of this year, 2024, when Russ McKamey was finally arrested. And probably not for the reasons you think. Now, Russ's first hearing is set for August 6th, and I want to make it very clear that in the United States, you are innocent until proven guilty by a court of law. Throughout this video, specifically when it comes to the ongoing investigations into Russ McKamey, of which there are multiple, I will be using the word allegedly very often. This is not to discount or diminish absolutely anything that victims of Russ have come forward to say, but it is because at this time they have not been proven in a court of law. Russ McKamey is incredibly sue happy, though I don't think there's a lawyer in the world who would take his broke ass. Finally, and I mean this very, very seriously, you should not take any of the information that I give to you in this video as an invitation to interact with Russ McKamey on or offline. It is my personal belief and opinion that Russ McKamey is an incredibly dangerous person, but it is indeed a fact that he is involved in criminal investigations at this time. Do not harass him, do not reach out to him, do not do anything that would put you into contact with him because of this video. Finally, a content warning for you, as today's video is going to be a little bit heavier than things that I typically post. There will be mentions of domestic violence, SA, as well as torture. If that seems like it's going to be too much for you today, I completely understand. Please take care of yourself. With all of that to say, we're finally going to talk about the insane downfall of Russ McKamey and McKamey Manor, and how everything that has happened in the last year, specifically around Russ McKamey, led us to a point where he is currently arrested, awaiting trial, and there's an entirely separate case where the Tennessee Attorney General is looking into him specifically for the business he conducts under the name McKamey Manor.
Tracking crime now in Lawrence County, the owner of an infamous haunted attraction known for its extreme tactics is facing charges.
On July 19, 2024, Russ McKamey was arrested under charges of SA, attempted murder via strangulation, and domestic assault. The alleged unnamed victim and Russ are said to be familiar with each other, but I don't think that at this time she wants to go into what that relationship entailed, how they knew each other. So I'm just going to be leaving that alone. If any details come out in the future, maybe I'll make an update. This is not the only legal trouble that Russ has gotten into in the past year either. In November of 2023, the Tennessee Attorney General's office launched an investigation into McKamey Manor following the October premiere of a Hulu documentary titled Monster Inside that went into the world of McKamey Manor. And Russ McKamey responded to this investigation by filing not only a lawsuit against the Attorney General's office, but also an $8.4 million lawsuit against Hulu for the documentary Monster Inside. And while I'm glad that this investigation has been filed and that the Attorney General's office is looking into McKamey Manor, I don't think that it ever would have happened without the viral success of the Monster Inside documentary on Hulu, but I also don't think it would have happened without the work of a YouTuber known as Reckless Ben, who did a multi-part series diving into the world of McKamey Manor, playing Russ McKamey at his own game, playing it 50 times better than he did, and making him look like a damn fool as he did it. It was a very entertaining series, but ultimately what Ben uncovered was a hard drive of very concerning material that contained raw footage of people's tours through the McKamey Manor haunted house. And if you're unfamiliar with McKamey Manor, this is a haunted house, an extreme haunted house that Russ McKamey began in San Diego many years ago. It kind of gained a bit of internet notoriety even in the early days of YouTube because Russ would film people's experiences going through his extreme haunted house and he would post them online. I quite literally literally used to sit in my high school bedroom and watch these videos of people going on the McKamey Manor tours. And as a legitimate child, I was always fascinated by them, right? It seemed like people were truly living an actual horror movie. They would be covered in spiders and forced to crawl through tiny spaces, and they would be waterboarded. And no matter what, they just kept going. And at the end of their tour, they always said what a good time they had. And that you definitely don't want to do McKamey Manor because it's just the scariest thing that any one human being can do. But it didn't always start out as an extreme haunted house in which people would eventually be tortured and denied the use of a safe word. When it started out, it was referred to as a boo haunt, basically a haunted house attraction that Russ would set up in his garage where he would have like scare actors who would jump out at you and special props and stuff, all just made to freak you out. And as the years went on, his haunted house became a bit of an infamous one in San Diego until it became a bit more extreme. And eventually, following the end of a relationship in which his former girlfriend slash wife, I'm not totally clear on which one it was, when she left, she took all of the props that she had purchased for McKamey Manor with her. The haunted house became more like a torture chamber, the entirety of which was filmed and put online. So now hopefully you have a vague understanding of McKamey Manor. We'll get into a lot more of the specifics later. But now that you know what it is, let's talk about the Hulu doc.
All right, guys, she's doing really good tonight.
Monster Inside premiered in October of 2023, and it primarily followed 3 separate people around the story of McKamey Manor, all of whom had gone through the haunted house in the past. Those people being Melissa, Gabby, and Brandon. Gabby is actually someone that I interviewed for my initial series on McKamey Manor 5 years ago. And for Gabby, her tour through McKamey Manor was really the start of the more extreme haunted house tour. In Gabby's experience, I mean, she was covered in spiders, she was locked in a freezer. Her trip through McKamey Manor at the time that she went in was definitely darker than anyone else's had ever been. She's talked to me about it. She's made entire YouTube videos, like a full-blown story time on it. If you want to hear it straight from her, I'll have those videos linked down below. She's also talked about it in this Hulu documentary. She also, years and years ago, posted on the McKamey Manor subreddit, basically saying, you know, I went through, I survived, and kind of answered people's questions. She was not only someone who went through the McKamey Manor tour, she was also kind of, I don't know what the right word is to use here, indoctrinated perhaps by Russ to, she was running like all of his social media. She was running the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, like every single social media. And she was kind of forced to fight on his behalf. When haters, as he called them, would roll in and say, you know, this guy is crazy, he's the worst, like what he's doing is terrible, it would be her job to say, no, I've met him, he's such a sweetheart, like to make him look like a total teddy bear, basically. Gabby's story is way deeper and more complex than that. All of these victims of McKamey Manor stories are. So if you do want to watch the whole documentary, totally recommend it. Again, it's Monster Inside over on Hulu. But for now, I'm gonna step away from Gabby and we're gonna talk a bit about Melissa. Now, Melissa was a fan of the original YouTube channel. Remember, I told you Russ would make what he called movies around people's haunted house experiences in McKamey Manor. So she was kind of a fan of those OG videos. And in her mind, she was looking for a bit of a break from the mundane. She very much so felt like her routine was a bit dull, a bit boring. She wanted something exciting. She wanted something to break her from the monotony of life. And she also, admittedly, kind of wanted a bit of the fame that came along with being McKamey Manor's person of the week who went through their own haunted house experience. I mean, there was like an entire community around the manor at this point. I think a community that Russ has tried to cling to for many, many years, but there certainly was a fan base at one point. And so for Melissa, she really wanted to be the star of one of those movies that Russ would make. She said that no matter how many people told her it was a bad idea, that she really shouldn't do it, that like, what was she thinking? No matter who said what, it only made her want to do it more. She was going to do it from the minute she decided to. Before her tour even began, Russ had her sending in a video of herself being like hung upside down by the ankles and being forced to eat nightcrawler worms. Her tour would end up lasting from 7 to 8 hours, and it was horrific. The third victim that the documentary focuses on is Brandon. Now, Brandon is a former military service member who bonded with Russ over their shared experiences during their times in the military. Brandon is a fan of extreme horror, and the documentary sort of focuses on the correlation between people who maybe like a big adrenaline rush that you might get through an extreme horror experience like McKamey Manor pretends to be, and people who have gone through really traumatic experiences. And I think that that's a really interesting thing that I won't touch on too much. I'm really going to talk just about the manor, but for Brandon, you know, he really was searching out seemingly an adrenaline rush. And it's not as simple as like, he's bored, he wants to be excited. It's much deeper than that. Like, he had been through these terrible things in his life. He had seen such awful things that for him to have a safe place to feel fear, where he knew he could trust whoever was putting him in that state of fear not to actually hurt him, it was very important to him. I think very important for his own healing. And through McKamey Manor, that trust was entirely broken. When Russ took a liking to him, he jumped at what he probably thought was his only opportunity to experience McKamey Manor. And all of them seem to have a very similar story of where it all began. They sent Russ an email or applied for McKamey Manor in some way. Russ took a liking to them for one reason or another, and they were suddenly allowed to jump to the front of what Russ claimed to be was a 20,000 person wait list to get into McKamey Manor. And all you had to do, the tour was totally free, except you had to bring a bag of dog food. I think the dog food was just for Russ's dogs. I saw something once upon a time about him donating it. I don't think he would ever donate a thing. The contestants would sign a waiver, a very, very extreme waiver at that said that at any time, the people who ran McKamey Manor, the actors, Russ, whoever, could pull teeth. They could break your bones. They could cut your hair. The haunted house tours would often begin with contestants being kidnapped in a van by Russ and his team, then put into situations where they would be waterboarded, where they would be put into straitjackets with chains over top that were incredibly, incredibly heavy. They would lock them in freezers. They would cover them in spiders. Like, this doesn't even begin to cover the horrible, horrible things that happened at this place. Throughout the documentary as well, they have input from people who run actual, legitimate, professional extreme haunts, all of whom essentially say that McKamey Manor is a joke, that it is the laughing stock, and not even in a funny way, of this entire community. I mean, we'll get into how legitimate the manor even is. It's a joke. It's like not real. It's all a scam. But outside of that, Russ really is actually torturing people. Like, people really are going through the things that I've described to you, and so much worse. And the biggest problem with all of that, because yes, these people signed a waiver, they said that you can tear out their teeth and do whatever. The biggest problem is that Russ does not implement a safe word. He specifically says and boasts about the fact that in his tours, there is no safe word, there is no quitting. There was a 2016 participant of the manor named Laura who said that she was given a safe word, or she maybe decided on one, and she said it repeatedly over the course of her tour, and it was ignored. She used that safe word for several minutes, and employees continued to torture her until eventually they stopped, and she was treated for extensive injuries at a local hospital. Consent and safety in these types of environments is the most important thing, because you don't actually want to hurt people. In the setting of an extreme haunt, you want to put on a good show. You want to really scare people. You want to make them feel this fear in a controlled environment where they may not know in their brains at the moment that they are safe, but you know that they are. You know that as a scare actor, you're not going to actually hurt them. And that was the entire point of McKamey Manor. When I say they hurt people too, I can't even describe the levels of injury. I couldn't put in photos of any of it. It is the most repulsive, vile stuff you've ever seen in your life. They are beating these people black and blue, and they wouldn't let them tap out at any point. You have to remember that the victims of McKamey Manor are just that. They're victims. In very many cases, they were lured in by Russ McKamey. He heavily manipulated people into getting what he wanted. And at the end of the day, all he actually wanted was to make a good movie, was to make some kind of a video around these experiences. I think in more recent times, he's moved to live streaming as well. And while I do think a lot of it was for the public, I think it was mostly just for Russ. They would exhaust these people, like mentally, physically. These tours would last 7, 8+ hours. People would be so out of it by the end of it, so just like, what in the hell is going on, that they wouldn't even know what to do with themselves anymore. So when Russ points a camera at them at the end and says, well, did you have fun? Of course they're gonna say yes. Of course they're gonna pretend like it was the best time ever. They wanna get the hell out of there. And they're not gonna be in their right minds after a tour through McKamey Manor anyways. There's a heavy emphasis in this documentary as well, and this makes me pretty uncomfortable, but I do think it's like really important to talk about when it comes to Russ. There's an emphasis about what seems to be his fascination with women, particularly seemingly young, pretty women. It seems like Russ truly likes to torture women more than anyone else. It seems as though he really, really, really enjoys exerting power, specifically over women. Again, I think the documentary goes into that a bit further. We're also going to talk about it more in the next segment, because for now, I'm going to step away from the Hulu doc. Again, there's a lot of really interesting information in there. I just sort of wanted to give you a rough overview of what that looked like. But before the documentary even came out, there was a very intense series of videos being posted to the YouTuber Reckless Ben's account.
Hey, this isn't Russ, this is actually Ben. I was just trying to figure out a way to get a hold of you.
Yeah, how are you using Russ's number?
You weren't answering me from my number, so the only way to contact you is literally just to hack into Russ's number.
Reckless Ben, as well as Danny Burke. I'm mostly going to be talking about Ben's videos today, but definitely Danny did an entire series as well, so I'll have both of them linked down below. If you're unfamiliar, Reckless Ben is a content creator who routinely infiltrates these organizations that seem like they would be just so hard to get into. Think Scientology, other cults, this is just what he does. And his multi-episode series into McKamey Manor, when I tell you, I was gobsmacked the entire time. Reckless Ben, love you to pieces if you're watching. You are an insane person, and truly, I don't think that there was anyone who ever could have given Russ exactly what he deserved, a taste of his own medicine, the way that Ben and his friend Danny did. In the very first video he posted, he talked about what McKamey Manor was, what it was on the surface, what people were saying about it now, and he didn't plan on just talking about McKamey Manor the way that I'm doing right now. No, no, no. He planned on infiltrating it. Within an hour of applying to go through McKamey Manor, he was accepted and was on a call with Russ before he knew it. I do want to say Russ claims in this phone call to Ben that someone has died at the manor. This isn't a claim I believe is substantiated, but Russ says that Ben will be participating in this same stunt.
There's 80 different activities that we can do inside the real manor. There is danger involved, so I need you really to pay attention. You might end up getting hurt or killed. And I'm telling you, one person has died here. That individual drowned inside of a stunt called Spectrum. And you will be doing that particular stunt that she passed away on. You will be doing it. It's called Spectrum. And you'll be doing it. It's a 200-yard underwater swim to an underwater haunted house.
A stunt which, spoiler alert, like never happened. And again, I don't think that somebody died at McKamey Manor. I think Russ is just yapping. But I do think that that's serious enough that hopefully somebody looks into it. What Ben found through his experience going through McKamey Manor was that he didn't truly believe McKamey Manor itself was real. Perhaps at one point the haunted house had been real when it was in San Diego and there was something to walk through and there were these actors and it was this whole big experience. At that point, there seemingly was a haunted house to go through. Now, however, at the Tennessee location, what Ben found was that Russ was just putting him through exercise. Extreme exercise that was meant to exhaust him and to make him tap out so that he could not get into the manor itself. Something I haven't mentioned so far is that McKamey Manor claims that if you can beat the manor, you will win a $20,000 cash prize. So for Ben, he's like, I'm getting into this manor. I'm winning the $20K. Nobody's ever won it before. They've never won it before because he knows it doesn't exist, but he's like, if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be me. Russ literally makes Ben tap out by waterboarding him. This is how Russ operates, is when you don't fail the way he wants you to fail, he will just torture you until you are forced to tap out. That's what he did to Ben. And even when Ben was like, no, I'll keep going, Russ forced him out. After this point, Ben's friend Danny Burke went through the manor, and Ben said himself, if anyone was gonna do this, if anyone was gonna get that 20K, it was Danny Burke. He's like crazier than Ben, just never backs down from a challenge, like physical or otherwise. I've seen so many of like Danny's stunts, I guess you could say, just things that he's done, really extreme things I don't think many other people would do. So for him, he wasn't going to tap out. Danny goes to McKamey Manor, Ben comes with him, and Danny is like, I'm getting through this, I'm getting to the manor. And he's going through the exercise, he's doing like whatever Russ wants him to do, these really mundane, like silly push-ups and weighted sit-ups and whatever. Danny is like, well, I want to do the extreme stuff. You promised me an extreme haunted house. I've been doing these exercises. Like, I want to do the extreme stuff. Like, where are all of these stunts you promised? Because keep in mind, Danny is someone who is very used to doing those kinds of things. Like, this is not thrilling or exciting for him, just doing mundane exercise in the front lawn of Russ McKamey's Tennessee home. Russ had a fit and basically ended the tour and said that Danny couldn't handle it, that he was never making it into the house.
I'm really sorry. Do the animal stuff, because that's like Danny Burke's specialty. Like, what does he do? Go to my YouTube channel, I get stung by insects. I took an executioner wasp to the face.
We're not here to hurt you. We're not here to hurt you.
But I think that the reason Russ said this is now that someone like Danny has come to McKamey Manor, someone who can actually take this pain and is willing to expose him for it, this kind of throws a wrench in Russ's entire plan to prevent the person from ever getting to the haunted house.
Will you pepper spray me right now? Can I keep going?
I don't want to pepper spray.
Well, that sounds fun too.
And from here, Ben makes Russ's life an absolutely delicious living hell. It is too much to summarize here, you guys. You have no idea. Ben was spoofing Russ's phone number to call his assistant slash head mod to convince her that he had hacked his phone so that somebody would talk to him. He was doing this, by the way, because at this point, McKamey Manor had threatened to sue him for putting out videos on his experience at the manor, and basically Russ finding out that like, oh, this wasn't someone just going through the manor because they really wanted to do my haunted house experience. They were actively infiltrating it because they know that it's bullshit.
Hey, how's it going, Kelly?
Good.
Hey, this isn't Russ, this is actually Ben. I was just trying to figure out a way to get a hold of you.
Yeah, how are you using Russ's number?
You weren't answering me from my number, so the only way to contact you is literally just to hack into Russ's number.
This doesn't matter. If someone's not answering the phone, you don't hack into somebody else's number. We have lawyers that we worked with. I'm not going to delve any deeper into that.
Well, The only thing I learned from this phone call is that they're sending lawyers after me, but they have no reason to send them.
Ben also infiltrated Russ's private Facebook group multiple times, mind you, and promoted his own videos as well as his very own website, which I believe is McKameyManor.org. And yes, that is Ben's website because Ben bought the trademark and the copyright to McKamey Manor.
I want to post my commercial in their Facebook page.
Hopefully I don't get banned for this.
I'd like to introduce to you the new company I just created, McKamey Manor, LLC, a company all about promoting animals. The thing about our company is we're not afraid to show what type of animals we promote. But at McKamey Manor, our favorite animal is the rat. We got rat shirts, mugs, purses, pillows, jigsaw puzzles. Yeah, pretty much the entire company is just selling products based off rats.
He even bypassed an NDA by changing the dollar amount that he would have to pay should he break the NDA. He changed it from $50,000 to $1 and just hoped Russ didn't notice him change it in the contract before he signed it. Russ indeed signed it, so he weaseled his way out of an NDA. He also worked something else into his friend's contract where Russ would have to get pizza with them. Anyways, it's just a whole thing. It's very, very, very like wildly entertaining. It is so delicious to see Russ McKamey taken down several notches by someone who knows how to troll him beyond all belief. I mean, he deserves that and a billion times worse. But the serious component of this video series, outside of just the sweet karmic justice that Ben and Danny delivered, the serious part was the hard drive. The hard drive. It has been, I believe, kind of like long-standing, lore doesn't feel like the right word here, but perhaps a rumor around the McKamey Manor discourse that there exists a hard drive of all of the original footage coming from tours through the manor. It's said that what is on this hard drive is bad enough that if you were to obtain it, if you were to be in possession of it, it could ruin your life. Like you could have consequences beyond all belief. And that's pretty heavy. That's pretty serious. And Ben's whole thing was like, well, if this exists, I'm going to find it. He goes down a rabbit hole of trying to locate this hard drive that seemingly existed with Russ, and then it was taken by someone else who then gave it to someone else, and then it was in a house that flooded and blah, 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 blah. Ben eventually gets his hands on this hard drive, and he runs into a massive problem. If he leaks the footage that's on the hard drive, if he posts what's on there, he is putting innocent victims of this situation on blast without their consent. Yes, he can blur their faces, he can try to keep it anonymous, but at the end of the day, edited versions of each and every tour through McKamey Manor are online. People are gonna be able to figure out who it is. So that's not an option. Somebody has already tried to submit all of this to the police in the past, like 3 years before Ben obtained it. That didn't go anywhere. So giving it to the police isn't an option. I will say that Ben got permission from a few people who did go through it, who did have their original footage on that hard drive to post it, to release it. And what is on that hard drive is just so deeply disturbing. I think that Ben's content is not for the weak of heart in general. What Ben ended up showing, what he had permission to show from the hard drive, was so deeply disturbing to me. Like, it made me sick to my stomach. Please watch the contents of that at your own discretion. There's a lot of really unsettling things in that raw footage, that raw unedited footage from those haunted house tours. Things I definitely think show just how unsettling Russ's relationship with female contestants is, how he exerts power specifically over women, how he just seems to really enjoy scaring women. I think that that's what I'll say. It is so disturbing and foul, and yet the police wouldn't do anything. So Ben was left with no other choice. He scoured through everything he could online to find proof that what Russ was doing in terms of McKamey Manor in Tennessee, that none of it was up to code. He quite literally, because nobody would do anything about the literal torture that was going on, He went down to the nitty gritty and was like finding screenshots of people in Russ's barn and saying, well, this isn't up to code because there's no exit sign and there's no windows and there's, you know, whatever. He literally mails all of this, emails it to the Attorney General of Tennessee. And 2 days later, the Attorney General of Tennessee says that he is looking into McKamey Manor and Russ McKamey. I think that a lot of that was spurred on by the documentary that came out because it was very viral, but I don't want to discount Ben in any way. What he did trying to get McKamey Manor actively shut down goes so far beyond like investigative journalism or even just trying to infiltrate a group like this. He worked incredibly hard to make sure that there were no further victims of McKamey Manor. He put himself into danger and into the threat of a potential lawsuit more times than you can count. Because Russ is a scary man. I'll be real honest with you folks. I don't want to be on that man's property, especially not in Tennessee. I can say that because I'm from Georgia. And like, he's just a scary guy. And Ben really just threw himself into the thick of it and said, I don't care. And I do think he was instrumental in getting to where we are now and into hopefully, finally seeing an end of McKamey Manor. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with Russ sitting at what I believe is a $100,000 bail. I don't know if he has posted that. I don't know if he is currently being held in jail, if he's out of jail. I know that he seemingly has no money to afford a lawyer and that his very first hearing is set for early August. And I think that we're gonna see a lot more come out, not only from this trial of which he is charged with alleged assault and attempted murder and, you know, terrible, terrible things. I don't think we're just gonna see that. I think we're gonna see a lot coming out of this investigation that the Attorney General is doing into McKamey Manor. I think that this is not over by a long shot. I actually think we're just getting started in terms of Russ's terrible, terrible deeds being brought to light, finally. And so, there's your McKamey Manor update. So many of you asked me for it. I really hope this didn't disappoint. I know it was a heavier video. McKamey Manor is a heavier topic. It's something that I find fascinating how long I've been so interested in. When I was a teenager in my bedroom, I was interested in it as a fan because these horror movies where people went through these haunted houses just seemed so intense and extreme, and maybe I'd want to do that one day. And then a couple of years ago, it was a topic that I was very passionate in exploring deeper. It was one of my first, like, I feel like really investigative video series where I went super deep on a topic. And now, today, I just can't believe where we are. I can't believe the horrific turn of events that have led us to where we are. But I really believe that justice finally will be served for Russ McKamey and McKamey Manor, and I hope that you all are as ready for it as I am. With that all to say, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. A very chatty one, I know, but hopefully you enjoyed nonetheless. If you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. A special thank you to my subscribers who are members of the channel. If you want to join the channel memberships and get extra members exclusive perks like members only polls to help me decide on future video topics, members only videos, so much more, you can click that little join button somewhere around the screen. We would love to have you. An extra special thank you to my VIP loves for their continued and generous support of the channel. I love and appreciate you all very, very much. I love you all very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.